There's a hurdle that everyone must overcome in order to fully understand silk, and it's a deceptively simple question. How can small doses of volatility be baked into something stable? Since silk's peg, and by implication its market price, it floats over time, does it really fit the definition of a stablecoin? And more than that, does this characteristic undermine its ability to achieve widespread adoption as transactable money? This question strikes at the very heart of a growing chasm between two diametrically opposed definitions of stable. And as we follow this inquiry with honesty and dig into the question, there's a red thread of reason that leads us to a surprising revelation. It's another classic crypto red pill versus blue pill moment we find ourselves at in the way that we think about stable assets. There are two definitions of stability, but one is an illusion. Here's the choice. Would you rather have option one, something that stays the same price but functionally loses value over time due to inflation and loss of purchasing power? Or option two, would you rather have something that slowly appreciates in price over time in order to preserve purchasing power? Option one describes fiat pegged stablecoins. Stablecoins pegged to the US dollar or to the euro. The price stays the same over time. Is that stability? Option two describes the essence of a growing camp of inflation-resistant stablecoins, overlapping with a category called flat coins, and silk fits solidly in this camp. The price appreciates relative to single currencies in order to preserve purchasing power. Is that stability? There's an allure in embracing the illusion. If you've seen The Matrix, you remember a scene where Cypher is preparing to betray his tribe, and his negotiated price is wealth in the illusion of the Matrix. He's at a celebratory dinner in the Matrix with the bad guys to seal this betrayal, and he pauses and looks deeply at a bite of steak on his fork, and he reflects, I know that this steak doesn't exist, but ignorance is bliss. It feels like many of us are having the same moment with the US dollar. What the dollar was, what it used to represent, that no longer exists. It's been hollowed out, like the Matrix. The story of the world the dollar represents to us is an illusion. Since 2020, the dollar is down 25% in real terms. And you've already seen charts like this one that depict what happens to the dollar's purchasing power over time. This chart only goes till 2020. The story about the dollar's loss of purchasing power is obvious to everyone. It's the tip of the iceberg. But what does the rest of the iceberg look like? Like this. US liabilities are $175.3 trillion. It's a figure so mind-boggling that it defies imagination. But this story has already happened before. And the only play in the playbook has already played out in empires and times past. What can the US do with this overwhelming debt and liability? What is the only thing the US can do? Print. And you know what that means. It's what we've seen in the last 4 years, just as a preview. So like Cypher, we can sit in an illusory landscape and tell ourselves that $1 is stability. We can self-soothe with the same words. I know what this dollar represents doesn't exist, but ignorance is bliss. The truth is, ignorance is only bliss until reality makes landfall. If you were standing on train tracks and I told you that a train was coming with 175 cars behind it, would you say ignorance is bliss? No amount of bliss can compensate for the impact of reality. A reality already chugging down the tracks with no rewind and no exits. So, friend, the intent isn't to overwhelm or create fear, but we do want to get on the right side of reality. How can we support the claim that a stablecoin pegged to the US dollar is stable? If 100 years of US financial history and another millennium of financial history on world reserve currencies definitively prescribe that a dollar will be worth less in the future, potentially much less than it is today, then why? Why would we choose USD-pegged assets as a preferred mode of preserving purchasing power? Why would we call them stable? There is an antidote for this illusion, and we're taking great pains to articulate the illusory definition of stability when it comes to single fiat peg stablecoins. So what's the antidote? What's the better definition? In an economic environment characterized by currency devaluation, precisely measured volatility is necessary to ensure the preservation of purchasing power. In other words, small doses of volatility are necessary to overcome the destructive power of fiat debasement. That's it. That's the reason that Silk's peg is calibrated to appreciate over time. Silk's design is to increase in price over long periods relative to a dollar. And it makes sense, right? Because true stability means your purchasing power is preserved, not numbers stay same. So if you've made it this far and you're still watching, you understand. You've seen how deep the rabbit hole goes, and you have a choice. You can go back to the world you've been programmed to see, or you can take the antidote. Okay, so this is great as a theory of stability, but will people actually be able to transact with Silk? Let's dig into that. Well, people are already buying coffee, paying bills, making payments with privacy via Silk all over the world already. Through partnership with FinaCash, users run a Visa card from their phone, and Silk is instantaneously sold for euro and then swapped into the appropriate local currency for their local market. But the next theoretical level of Silk's adoption is even more simple. If Silk continues to grow, the next level of adoption is direct payment to a merchant. A merchant would actually accept Silk directly on chain. That would be the highest level of adoption. But think about this. If Silk is, say, $1.15 in 1 month, and then happens to be $1.16 or $1.14 the next month, or even in the next week, would a merchant really sign up for that? It's the biggest question. Users, merchants, enterprises, DAOs, governments, hedge funds, they will accept a small dose of volatility when they properly understand the alternative. These entities will embrace the antidote of measured volatility as the true definition of stability. They will embrace that antidote when they have seen the illusion for what it is. How many will choose the illusion? How many will choose the antidote? We don't know. It comes back to a very, very simple choice. Which type of stable asset any user or entity trusts for stability? It depends on the operative definition they choose for stable. Do you want 100, or do you want to preserve purchasing power over time? We can't accept both definitions as trustworthy. They are incompatible. The most honest approach to stable asset design is measured volatility. And users may find valuable use cases for USD peg stablecoins in their personal financial strategies. The free market can decide on this, as it always has with assets. But holding a USD peg stable as part of your portfolio should be done on purpose, not in an ignorance is bliss attitude. You can make a strong case that right now, the market is dining on steak with Cypher. It's a choice we can all make, isn't it? We can wake up in bed and forget what we've seen. But ultimately, it's dishonest. It's disconnected from reality. And that's not where Silk wants to live. Silk was born in the rabbit hole and is, in that way, the most honest approach to stable asset design, given the illusory nature of our monetary landscape. And so we have to ask, do your perceptions and subsequent decisions about stable assets belong to you? Or are they part of this grand illusion? Because make no mistake, the illusion is real, but so is the antidote.